Welcome to the Arun Church podcast, where our mission is bringing life to everyone, everywhere, every day. Each podcast episode features the latest talk from our church, which are released weekly. We're passionate about Jesus, love to worship together, and are committed to changing our community for the better. Connect with us at arunchurch.com.
Good morning, everybody. Oh man, I was feeling all nervous and all twitched, and you know when you keep thinking, I think I need to go to the toilet quickly, but I don't have time. And then Nathan gets up and does that, and I just laugh, and I feel fine now. There's something about humour and comedy that just cuts through everything else. So we're going to start this morning by playing a little word association game. So children, you can join in too. So what I need you to do is, I'm going to say a word. This is a Christian version. Okay, I'm going to say a word, and I want everybody to shout out the first word that comes into their head. Okay? Are we ready? Christian. Think Bible. Adam. Thank you. Noah. Daniel. Jonah. There we go. These are all very familiar stories, very familiar Old Testament stories from the Bible, stories that we've grown up listening to and hearing. Even if you haven't necessarily grown up in church, I bet that you would know some of these stories. And sometimes when we're really over familiar with stories, when we really know them, when we've heard them lots, sometimes we miss the main point of the story because we're focusing on the thing that's the character drawing. On the front of the Bible, of any children's Bible, there's usually Noah and the ark and a rainbow. I think like the majority of my children's Bibles, that's the image on the front. When you turn to Jonah in any children's Bible, what is there a massive picture of? The big fish, the whale, the big fish. That is the focus. That's what we're kind of programmed to think. Jonah and the big fish, Jonah and the whale. So actually, when we come to these stories again, we need a new perspective. We need to look at them with fresh eyes. We need to wipe away that VeggieTales version of the story that we grew up learning and actually look with a fresh perspective, because the big fish in Jonah, in the whole of Jonah, does anyone know how much it's mentioned? 3 lines. In the whole of the book of Jonah, 3 lines about a big fish. So if that is what we think the main part of Jonah is, we're missing out. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to read through Jonah and the part of the storm, the part where Nathan's told already beautifully, where Jonah runs away and then there's a big storm. We're going to read it intentionally and we're going to go through it line by line because it's not very much to go through. So if we're going to read something intentionally, we need to start by thinking, well, what am I reading? So as Nathan said, Jonah is a book in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. So that is the scriptures and the word that are read by the Jewish people. So it was written for the Jewish, it was written for the Hebrews. It was written for God's people. So we need to go into it knowing that and knowing who this story was being told to at the time. Now, the book of Jonah is in the 12 books of the prophet. I think it's the 5th book in the 12 books of the prophets. So Jonah's a prophet. And Jonah's been mentioned earlier in the Old Testament. He goes and gives a word to one of the kings, and Jesus mentions him. And as last week, Joe drew parallels between Jesus' story and Jonah's story, yeah? So we know that Jonah is a real person. He's a real man in the Bible. So we know we're reading a book that was written to the Jewish people. We know we're reading about a prophet. But in the whole Bible, we hopefully know that the Bible is like a library of books. And in this library, we've got poetry. We've got poetry from the prophets. We've got love poetry. We've got narrative. We've got factual stories. And we've got fiction stories. We've got correspondence. We've got letters to and from the church. We have all these different types of writing. The Bible is full of different literature. So we need to know what literature we're reading. So the book of Jonah starts by saying the word came from the Lord. So who are the people that we know hear from God? Who are the people that we know hear from God? I'll ask again. The prophets. So we know that Jonah's a prophet. He's in the series of prophets, and it says the word of the Lord came to Jonah. But Jonah, the book of Jonah is totally unique. There is nothing like the book of Jonah in the rest of the Bible. The book of Jonah is exaggerated. It's over the top. How do we know it's over the top? The word huge is mentioned 15 times. Huge. Do you think everything really was huge? Or do you think it's a way of emphasizing the point of the story? There was a huge storm. There was a huge fish. There was a huge city. Everything is huge and over the top. When it talks about the city that it goes to, it says it was huge. It took 3 days to walk across. That's not true. We know it doesn't take 3 days to cross. I think it was 7 miles all the way around. They knew that factually. But the story was being over-egged. It was being emphasized. Not saying it's not true, but it was being told for an effect. It was being told for an effect. You see, in Jonah, everything is unique and everything is flipped back and forth. It's flipped reverse. So if you get the first picture up. In Jonah, it's meant to be written as a comedy, as satire, as a bit silly, a bit over the top. We have 4 of the characters. So we have the prophet Jonah, the man of God, who is doing the opposite of what a prophet should do. We have got the pagan sailors, and they're the oones that are worshipping God. We have the most evil king that there was, the most evil, awful king. And after a 5-word sermon, the worst sermon, I think, in the whole Bible, Jonah literally says, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. He doesn't even say by who, how, what they can do, reverse it. He just does a half-hearted sermon. And the most evil king of all is on his knees, begging God to stop. That's a bit odd. Why is the man of God doing a terrible sermon and the most evil king on his knees and saying, and even the cows are repenting? Can you see that this book it's silly? It's meant to be silly. We're meant to laugh at it. We're meant to see the humor in it, see the irony in it. But if you don't know that there's humor and irony there, we just read it like there was a huge fish and there was a huge city and then the king repented because Jonah did a good job. No, it's meant to be like topsy-turvy, upside down, back to front. So we're going to go through it and read it with that lens on, with that perspective on, with that understanding. Okay, so if you've got your Bible, turn to Jonah 1. On the screen will be the NIV version, but just read whatever version, because sometimes it's good to contrast the words. So it says, the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. And then there's a laugh. Why? We don't know. But the Hebrew people would have known. The Jewish people would have known that Jonah means dove. Innocent, pure dove. Amittai means faithfulness. So we have an innocent dove, son of faithfulness. Do we? No. We have the opposite of that. So, carrying on, God says, go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran from the Lord and headed to Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed to Tarshish to flee from the Lord. So as we've already said, Nineveh was a brutal place. It was led by a brutal king. It was oppressive. They were renowned for their violence, for their evil. They used to overthrow towns and skin the leaders of them cities alive. They were evil. They were awful. They were the enemy of the Israelite people. And we can see on the map, I've got a map here. So we've got where Jonah is, and he goes down to Joppa, and he is aiming for as far west in the known world to Tarshish. You can see it's the opposite direction to Nineveh. Nineveh's this way, Nineveh's northeast, and Tarshish is as far as the known world. So it's like he is literally going as far as physically possible. He's going to the edge of the earth as far as the listeners are hearing. He is going literally as far as you can physically go. That's how far he's fleeing. But we have a man of God, innocent, son of faithfulness. He would know the scriptures. He would, a man of God. He would know in the Psalms, in Psalm 139, it says, "For the Lord, you know when I rise and when I sit, I cannot go to heaven and you not be there. I could not go to the depth and you not be there." He knows this. So why does he think if he just goes that way, that God isn't there? That's not an innocent dove full of faithfulness. That's a fool. We're reading about a fool. Let's see what the fool does. Carrying on in verse 4. "Then the Lord sent a great wind upon the sea. Such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid and cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the load. But Jonah had gone down below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, 'How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so we shall not perish.' Maybe God will notice them." Do you think? It's a bit ironic, because he's only in this position because God has noticed. God has noticed Jonah. God knows exactly what Jonah is doing, and that is why we're all in this mess. It's only happening because God has noticed them. And who's praying? The man of God? The innocent faithful? No. The pagan soldiers. It's the pagan soldiers that are praying and saying, "Call on your God." It's not God's people. It's the pagans. They're the ones saying, "Call on your God. Let's see if your God can do something. Let's see if your God can do it." It is so ironic that the man of God is not the one praying. What's the man of God doing? He's fast asleep. The man of God is fast asleep. Yet, it's the pagans, they're awake. And not only are they awake, they know that this just isn't a physical thing. They recognize that something spiritual is going on here. Something more is happening here. Something else, something of a higher power is at play. The man of God, he's asleep. He doesn't even know there's a storm going on. Not only is he sleeping through the physical, he's sleeping through the spiritual. This is all back to front, topsy-turvy, upside down. This isn't right. The people of God, the man of God, should be the ones seeing what's happening spiritually. It's the ones that aren't even worshipping God that can see what's at play. Don't let that pass you by. Don't let that. It's meant to be uncomfortable. It's meant to jar us. It's meant to wake us up. So then let's continue in verse 7. "Then the sailors said to each other, 'Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity.'" I lost some place. "Who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? Who is responsible for this calamity?" So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" And he answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." What? Some translations say, instead of worship, they say, "And I fear the Lord." So we don't mean fear as in he's scared of God. Fear is like a deep respect, a deep reverence. So if somebody loves and worships and fears the Lord, that looks like a deep love, a deep respect, honor, devotion, prayer, praise, how they live their lifestyle. I am a Hebrew, I am a man of God, and I worship the Lord. Do you? Doesn't look like that, Jonah. In fact, that is an absolute hypocritical thing to say. What? You are not worshipping God. You are running from God. You are disobeying God. How dare you say that you love and honor and respect him and worship him? You are fleeing as far from the known earth as possible from your God. What a hypocrite. What a liar. Are you mental? Hang on a minute. Have I never said that I worship and honor God and yet do the exact opposite with my actions? Have I never done that? Yeah. All the time. And yet I stand and feel anger towards the hypocrisy that I'm seeing. Anger, injustice. I'm laughing at him and what a joke Jonah is. And then they flick the switch. I'm not laughing at Jonah. I'm laughing at me. What a fool I am. How do I go around saying I'm a Christian? How do I go around saying I live my life for the Lord and yet I'm so hypocritical. This is why this story is about a real person in the Bible. This is true. But the way that it was told, the style it is told, is because comedy does something. Comedy can cut through. Comedy can say things that we don't often get to say in such a bold way. I love watching comedy. I love how comedy often has its finger right on the pulse of what's going on in society. And you're laughing along and you're thinking it's hilarious and you think, I do that. That's me. I do that. Whereas if somebody just said, that's what you do, I'd be like, rude. Whereas actually laughing about it breaks the tension of it and makes you see that actually that's much more relatable. I definitely do that. I see myself in that. That's what this story is doing. It's making it exaggerated, over the top, silly, but then we see ourselves in this story. We see ourselves in it. Continuing, verse 10, it says, this terrified them. And they asked, what have you done? They knew he was running from the Lord because he already told them back when he boarded the ship. The sea was getting rougher and rougher. So these poor soldiers are like, hang on, wait a minute. You're running from your God, the God who made the sea, and you're running on the sea, on our ship? Are you kidding me? What are you doing, you fool? You're bringing death to us all. But it's funny that so often it's not the people of God that can see the hypocrisy of the people of God. So often people say that Christians are hypocrites. Isn't that something we've all heard? Christians are hypocrites. They're meant to be loving, but they're judgmental. They're meant to be this, but they're this. It's uncomfortable, but it's often the people who are not followers of God that can see us and are like, you hypocrites. Because we are. I am. I don't do exactly what God tells me to do all the time. I don't live my life purely. I make mistakes all the time. I'm a hypocrite. The fact I'm even stood here doing a talk about being a hypocrite is hypocritical. But someone's got to do it. But who is suffering as a result of Jonah's bad decisions? Everyone around him. Everyone around him. Who is suffering that he's making bad decisions, that he thinks he knows better than God, that he is being a wrecking ball? And even if he's not being deliberately disobeying God, the fact he's just being really apathetic about it all is having an effect on everyone around him. Now you see, in our culture, in Western culture, we very much have the opinion of, you do what's right for you as long as you're not hurting anybody. As long as you're not hurting anybody, you do what's right for you. But there's such like a crazy moral compass to have, because as human beings, we are a race together. We're all interconnected, interwoven. Individual decisions never just affect that person. Individual decisions affect each other. And every little decision we make is a little building block of a wall that we're building up. And it might not be a bad, terrible decision, but it's a little decision that suits me and is right for me. And it's not hurting anybody else. But actually, those little bricks become a wall, and that wall does have an impact on everybody else. That wall does have an impact on other people. We're not individual, we are interconnected. Carrying on verse 11, it says, so they asked him, what should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us? Pick me up and throw me into the sea, replied, and it will become calm. I know that it's my fault that this great storm has come upon him. He just says, kill me, and it'll all be fine. Maybe Jonah has come to his senses. Maybe Jonah realizes what he has done. Maybe he realizes the impact he's having. Or maybe Jonah is running even further from God. How much further can you get to God? If you're dead. It's over. He doesn't have to obey him then. It's done. And what I love about this story is, if you notice, he went down to Joppa. He went down into the bottom of the ship. He went down into the bottom of the boat. He went down into a deep sleep. He's going to go down into the ocean. Can you see this descend down and down and down and down? This is physically. He's going down, 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 down. But also spiritually, he's going down and down and down and down. He might not be fully aware of his sin. Maybe he is fully aware. We don't know. It doesn't have any clarity. But let's not let that kind of pass us by. But it is interesting that he recognizes that he's done something wrong. He recognizes that this is all because of him. But he doesn't seem to recognize. It doesn't really seem to clarify what his motives are when he once says throw him into the sea. Because sometimes we can confess our sins. Sometimes we can recognize where we've gone wrong. But as humans, we are so complex that maybe we don't fully understand or can fully confess the intricacies of our decisions and why we've done that. And what we can confess the action, but maybe not the intention, maybe not the root cause, maybe not the reasons why. It's interesting. It doesn't clarify, and I think that's because it's for us to think about and ponder about and look deeper about. So verse 13, it says, instead, the men, they did their best to row back to land, but they could not because the sea grew even wilder before. And then they cried out to the Lord, please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man. For you, Lord, have done as you pleased. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord. They offered a sacrifice to the Lord and they made vows to him. This is the first prayer to God in the story so far. Who made that prayer? The pagan soldiers. Not the innocent son of faithfulness, but the pagan soldiers. This is back to front, topsy-turvy. The people who are crying out to God are not meant to be the people that follow God. The man that follows God has not actually prayed to God so far. So who is the one that is actually fearing the Lord? Who is the one that is actually worshipping the Lord? Not the one. And it says that they offered a sacrifice and made their vows to him. Now, I don't know this, but that sounds like they got back to land, they went to the temple, they did a sacrifice on the altar. I mean, they could have done the sacrifice on the boat, but I can't imagine they'd have had the animals or the fire or I don't know. I imagine they got back to land and did it all, and then they made vows. It had an impact more than just that moment, just in that storm. It was more than that. It sounds like it was a stepping into a new thing. And then in verse 17 it said that now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. So Jonah, the man of God, the innocent dove of faithfulness, he was just asleep at the wheel. He was just apathetic. He was not alert to all that God was doing around him. He was not alert to all what God was doing in the people around him. Now look, we've got a whole boat of pagan sailors, and it said that they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. Jonah has missed the conversion of an entire ship. Jonah, the man of God, missed it because he was just asleep at the wheel. There is a deep contradiction in how Jonah says he lives his life and how he actually is living his life. Now, those sailors didn't miss out, and God isn't missing out, but Jonah's missing out. Because of his disobedience, Jonah is the one that's missing out. You see, Jonah had a plan for his life. Jonah had an idea of what he wanted, and going to forgive his enemies and for God bringing mercy on his enemies was not in the plan. That would not have made Jonah a popular man amongst his people, and bringing them that he just didn't want to do that. See, we behave in ways that make the most sense to us. We behave in ways that make the most sense to us. But how small-minded and ignorant am I if I just want God to just fit into my little plan that I've got going on in my life? What am I missing out on? My 2-year-old, he is very much a daddy's boy. Oh, he loves his daddy more than anything. He adores his daddy. And the other day I was with him and we were on one side of the road and daddy was on the other side of the road. And he just stopped what he was doing and he sprinted to his daddy because, boy, he loves his daddy and that is who he wants and that is what he wants. And he was running for his life for his daddy. But actually, he was ruining his life if he ran towards his daddy. He was ruining it because he was going to run across a busy road. How many of us think that we're running for our lives for something that we want to do, but maybe we're ruining our lives. Maybe we're running towards death and destruction. Maybe God is calling us to grow into something more, something bigger, something better, something that we can't actually see because we're so focused on the life that we have planned, so focused on the thing that we want to do. What are we running from? What are you heading to Tarshish for? Because so often we say to God, God, I love you. God, I'm for you. God, look how good I am. I come to church and I volunteer here and I volunteer there and I do this. No, God, not over there, not over there. Look at what I'm doing, God. Look how good I am. Look how much I worship and how much I sacrifice. Don't talk to me about my money, God. And I'm not willing to do that. Don't talk to me about how to raise my children, God. I'm not willing to offer that. Don't talk to me about that unforgiveness, God, because look at what I do over here. Oh, I'm an innocent dove full of faithfulness, God. Oh, the hypocrisy. Oh, what a hypocrite. Oh, how apathetic I am. How asleep at the wheel. God is saying, Kat, over here. Kat, I've got something going on over here and I want you to step in full of faithfulness, 2 feet in. Let's see what's going on here. Kat, I'm not ruining your life. Let's run for our lives together. Kat, over here. Sometimes when you've been a Christian for a really long time, just go through the motions. Just go through the motions. I do all the right things. I read my Bible, come to church, I volunteer when I need to volunteer. But I don't actually let God change my thinking. I don't actually let God, I don't let God challenge the things that I'm absolutely set in my ways about. I don't let God unsettle or unskittle things. I don't let God turn the story topsy-turvy, upside down on its head. Because God, I quite like this life I've got over here. I quite like the direction it's heading in. I quite like how comfortable it is behind my 4 walls. Thank you. I'll worship you here. I'm not going to go and do something over there that's totally just going to throw a bomb in it and mess it all up. Maybe we have patterns of behavior that we need to stop. Patterns of thinking, patterns of things we do. Maybe we've got patterns of behavior we need to take up to shake things up. Maybe we need to wake up spiritually to what God is saying. I'm going to invite the band back up. So how do we wake up spiritually? What if you don't even think there's anything that God needs to challenge you on? I would suggest that you're asleep in the bottom of the boat if that's the case. If you don't think that you've got anything that God is challenging you on, anything that God is calling you to grow bigger, anything that God is calling you to grow in you mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, anything that God is challenging you on, church, we're asleep in the bottom of the boat. We will never get there. The only person that's there is Jesus. So for us, God has continually got challenge and growth and directions. We can run for our lives with God. Not ruin it, but with him. If you believe that there's nothing that you could do that could make you grow, maybe you're the one that's causing destruction to people around you. I would suggest, if you're brave enough, ask those closest to you. They'll tell you. They'll know where your blind spots are. They'll know where you're not opening up to God and not letting God help you challenge and grow. So we're just going to I don't really know how to end. I was saying, just going to end with being like I'm a hypocrite. Are you a hypocrite? Let's be aware of our hypocrisy. Let's not be an apathetic followers of God. Let's not. Let's choose to be brave and go to Nineveh. And when we go to Nineveh, let's not be half-hearted. Let's not be like the hypocrite Jonah who just says, who just does the worst preach. 40 days more and Nineveh will be overthrown. And guess what? God still moved. Because God doesn't miss out. Who misses out? Us. Because we don't get to partnership in it. God always wants us to partner with him. He always wants to do it with us, together. But we're the ones that miss out. Because we choose to stay small-minded. Because we choose to stay set in our ways. Because we choose to be resistant to change. Resistant to where God is going and what God is doing. The song we sang just before new wine, I like the words in that. Yeah, God, do something new. All I know is what has been before, but God, shake me up, break it up, do something new in me. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you that you always pursue relationship with us. I thank you that you always are coming after us. God, I thank you that you sent your son, Jesus, to die. And with the death, because of that, he brought life. I thank you that your kingdom is topsy-turvy, is upside down, that you use us even though we're not perfect, even though we don't have it together, even though we get it wrong. God, I thank you that you use us. And God, I just pray that we're not asleep at the wheel. Help us not be asleep in the bottom of the boat. God, help us tune our ears into all that you are saying. Help us focus our eyes on you. And God, I pray for a boldness that we are willing to step into whatever you're calling us, whatever you're challenging us. Give us that boldness. So just for a few minutes, let's just sit, just you and God, and just ask God, what am I holding off limits, God? What area of my life am I not letting you explore? Is it unforgiveness? Is it judgmentalism that I'm holding? Is it small-mindedness? Is it areas of our life like my finances, my children, my marriage, my relationships? What is it that we're holding off limits to God? And God, I just ask that you will move. I just ask that you will move, God.